Hello and welcome to this tutorial which will help you complete the assignment for Excel 2, the assignment called Charts. So I'm reading the instructions from your course shell, and it starts by saying that you're going to download and open a start file called Excel 2 Charts Assignment Start, which is located in your course shell. Here it is. I already downloaded it. I already opened it. As we discussed before, I am doing this on a Mac. Windows users, usually when you open it for the first time, might have a strip here for enable editing. And let's once we opened it, it says that you should save it just like we did in the past, under the same name, only replace the word start with your last name. So again, on Windows the file tab will be just to the left of home. On Mac it's on the top. In any case, save as. I'm just changing the word start to my last name. I always pretend my name is Smith. And since it's already been downloaded to the downloads, I'm saving it to downloads. In any case, not to an online location. First initial save always to a local place on your computer. Then, finally, we start doing something. Select B5 E10, format as currency, no decimals. We've done that before. Now, let's look at the premise first. This is a spreadsheet, or the beginning of a spreadsheet, that's supposedly from some city in the United States. And every city or every county has a district school board, and they have a budget. And they have a budget for middle schools and high schools and elementary schools and kindergartens and and so on. And it's broken by years from 2022 all the way to 2025. It already has figures, and it even already has some formulas for summing everything for each year. Like this one already has the sum and so on. So what are we doing here if this already looks like it has all the data? The whole point is visualizing the data from or turning it into charts. Some charts are going to be big, some charts are going to be small. We're just going to explore all kinds of ways of visualizing data, turning it into graphic representation, which is really one of the biggest strengths and uses of Excel. So going back to what we needed to do, to select B5 E10, format as currency. So B5 is this, E10. So that's basically all the cells that have numbers. Instead of a number, we're going to format it as currency and click twice, as we did before on decreased decimals. Once, twice. So now it's dollars with no cents. Save. Then we're going to select B5E9, in other words, everything other than the totals row, and we're going to insert conditional data bars, and you're free to select any style you like. Now, what are conditional data bars? They're basically little bars like this, but the size of each bar depends on the value of each cell. So where do we find it? In the Home tab, Conditional Formatting Data Bars. So first of all, we're going to select all the cells other than the totals, then Home, Conditional Formatting, Data Bars, and like the instructions say, you're free to select whichever, style you want. Some of them are gradients, some of them are solid colors. Let me select the blue one right here, Solid Fill Blue. And that already starts visualizing the data. All of a sudden, you can see that the pre-K is taking a lot more than, let's say, the high schools. So we're starting to give meaning to the data, which is really the definition of turning data into information. Step number 4. We're going to select F5, F9 and insert something called Spark Lines. In the Spark Lines menu, we're going to choose line. In the dialog, select the data range for the Spark Lines. We're going to type B5, E9, the same range that we had before. But what we're going to select is this, where it says trend from F5 to F9, then insert, then a group called Spark Lines, drop the menu and choose line. In the dialog that appears, I'm going to enter the range B5 colon E9, click OK, and here's what we got. look at what it did. Mini little, those are spark lines really, mini little charts that show you, for instance, for high school, it went down, then it went up, and so on. Again, visualizing the numbers. Save. Then, step number 5. We're going to select A5 through A9 and E5 through E9. We discussed this before. This is called as disjointed selection, which on Mac, we're going to, on both platforms, we'll need 2 hands. But on Mac, we're going to use our left hand to hold Command and our right hand with a mouse to select this range and then this range. And on Windows, it's the same thing, only with the Control key. Important, don't select row 10. Again, one of the things that I will repeat all the time is that when it comes to charts, the totals don't participate in the chart. And so right now we are selecting a range for our first chart. A5, A9, and E5, E9. A5, A9 is all of these, like the names of the schools. Since this is a Mac, I'm holding Command. If you're using Windows, you'll be holding Control. And then E5, E9 would be all the numbers, the numbers for 2025. So all the names of the schools, all the figures for the schools. Because every chart always needs to have 2 data series, names and numbers, just like, let's say, your contacts on your phone, name, number, name, number. Then, once I have the right range selected, and it should look like this. If selection looks right, we're going to go to Insert, Chart, Pie Chart, and a 3D pie. If this is selected and these numbers are selected, Insert. In the Charts area, there's a special area for pie charts. So we're going to select a 3D pie. And that looks good. Things to look at. The colors might look different, but the proportions should look the same on yours. And it should not have the word total. If it did, it means that you also selected row 10. So undo and do it again. Save. And we will move it soon because, of course, it covers up all this stuff. And like it says, important, if it looks really different from the screenshot, undo and do again. Most common to check, the cells range. If the chart looks right, you're going to select the chart, which is clicking on its edge to select all of it, not on any particular slice in the pie. And then in the tab called Chart Design, the menu called Add Chart Element, we're going to go to Data Labels and add data labels on the outside end. What are data labels? Little pieces of information like numbers outside the pie, because right now we don't have it. So it's kind of a cool representation, but we don't really have numbers. So we're going to make sure the whole chart is selected, like clicking on its edge somewhere, not necessarily on the, those handles, because that's for resizing, just on the edge. Then in the tab called Chart Design, we're going to use Add Chart Element, Data Labels, Outside End, which will put them outside the end of the chart. And it copied the numbers. Save. Data labels should now show dollars. Click on one of them or any of them and it selects all of them. Then right click and in the drop menu that appears, select Format Data Labels. I know it's confusing, not Format Data Series. So what we're going to do is click on one of those numbers, doesn't matter which one, and you see how all of them got selected. Right click on any of them that are selected and go to Format Data Labels, not Format Data Series, but Format Data Labels. This should open a pane on the right. And in that pane, we're going to select percentage and uncheck value. Now, what's the point? When we see dollars, we can react to it, but pie charts are mostly about percentage. So I'm saying it's more important for me to show percentage for each one of them than to show dollars, because I can see the dollars in the table. So I'm going to check percentage and uncheck value, and now I can see the percentage of each slice in the pie. Save. This is something you're also going to do, something very similar for your final assignment in Excel. Back to the instructions. Now we can, of course, we save and we can close the Format Data Labels pane. And then finally, we can move the chart to G1 L10 by dragging the top left and the bottom right, not bottom tight. Let me fix that. Bottom right corners to be within those cells. So it's, again, what cells? It's, just want to make sure I'm following my own instructions. G1 L10. So I'm going to grab the chart by its edge, move it. See how G1 is right here. It doesn't have to be all the way to the corner as long as it's somewhere within G1. Then to see the other end, I might have to click to zoom out one or two, and then L10. Something like this. So it's like, you know, a nice quadrant. And it should look like this. Edit chart title to say these words. Let me actually make sure that this doesn't happen again. Viewing as student so I can see it exactly the same as you. And the chart title that we're editing is going to be the words 2025 spending by school type, because that's exactly what it's about. It's taking the year 2025 and showing how much we spent by, you know, different types. So chart title, and then of course you can type uh, 2025 spending by school type instead of just a generic word. Chart title. Save. Next, click to select chart legend. The legend is that strip on the bottom that has all the words and numbers. And what we're going to do is learn how to move it. And we're going to go to the tab Chart Design, Add Chart Element, Legend, Right. Click on it, it selects all of it. Chart Design, Add Chart Element, Legend, and say, hey, I don't want you on bottom, I want you on the right. Because it looks better and it, you know, makes the pie look a little bigger, and so on. So now it looks like this. Step 16, select A4, E9, insert from the menu called Recommended Chart, something called a clustered bar chart. So first of all, select A4, E9. That's pretty much like everything. Now, what are we doing here? A4 all the way to E9. So it's all the numbers and the years. Let's make sure. From A4 all the way to E9. So it's everything in the table other than the trend and the totals. Now I want to build a chart that has all the schools and all the years, and this is why it's called a clustered bar chart. For every kind of school, I want to see like basically like a mini chart for each one of them for each year. That's called a clustered chart. So insert, recommended charts, and I'm going to find, here's clustered bar. It's at the top of my menu because I used it so many times, but sometimes you have to scroll down a little bit to find it. I will find it. And it looks something like this. See how for each school, it shows each color is a year. So it breaks it down by schools, but each school, each kind of school is also broken down by year. Move to the clustered bar to A11, F24. In other words, kind of the, you know, to the bottom. So A11 is kind of like here, and stretch to F, and 24 looks good. Save. If it looks like this, great. Change the clustered bar chart title to all school spending, not just one school, not just 1 year, but all school spending 22-25. You just double click, delete, whatever's the placeholder in there, like in the words chart title, and type the text instead. Next. Then we're going to do another disjointed selection. We're going to select B4, E4, which is the strip with the years, or the row with the years, and B10, E10, which is the row with the totals. So just like we did before, B from B4 to E4. On the Mac, I'm holding Command. If this was Windows, I'll be holding Control and selecting all the totals, which is from B10 to E10. Let me make sure. B4, E4, B10, E10. And then we're going to insert a chart that shows the overall chart for the totals of the years. So we're going to go to Insert, Chart, Recommended Charts, and then the most common chart of all, a line chart. So if my information is selected correctly, again, all the years, hold Command or Control, all the totals, Insert, Recommended Charts, and you can see that it's now, that line is, on some computers you'll have to scroll up and down to find it, but it's there in the Recommended Charts. Click, and it inserts a chart that shows you over the years the overall spending, which is why we're going to change the title of that chart to Total Spending by Year. And save. Of course, we're going to move it. Let's see where. It's pretty obvious where we're going to move it. We're going to move it to be like the last quadrant right here. In other words, from G11 to L24. Let's see if I'm right. G11, L24. End result should look something like this. So again, what have we done here? We have taken a bunch of, let's call it dry information, just this, and we added several visualizations to it. First of all, those data bars. To make, big numbers have a big bar. Then trends, which are many little charts for each one of them. Then a pie chart for one specific year. Then an overall clustered bar chart for all the schools, all the years. And then kind of a zoom out, big picture, one line that shows by year the overall spending of the entire school district. Now, let me save and just make a point. If you show up at work to a meeting and you need to make a presentation and you show up, let me open the start file. With this, does it have all the information? Yes, but it's dry, it's not engaging, people are not going to relate to it. On the other hand, if you show up to the meeting and you have this, you're going to be taken a lot more seriously because this tells a story. Like the instructions say, once you're done, of course, you save and you're going to upload to the assignment box by the due date. So if this is Mac file, under Excel, quit Excel, or I can close the file, or if this was Windows, the closing X is right here, one or the other, as long as I remember where I put it. In my case, it's in the downloads, and from previous assignments, you know how to upload. Good luck.